is usually the moment most people turn their cameras off, but if you could leave your cameras on, that would be really helpful. And yeah, just a few introductions. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm John Callister and I'm the head of the music service here in Staffordshire. I say here in Staffordshire, I'm actually sat in Cheshire, which is weird. I must stop saying that, but I'm the head of the music service for Staffordshire and we've got other colleagues from other services on the call. So Ruth, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ruth Steele and I'm lead for Stoke-on-Trent Music Service.
Thanks, Ruth. Tracy?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm the team leader for Telford and Rickie Music.
Lovely. Chris?
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Jones. I'm the head at Dudley Performing Arts.
Thanks, Chris. Sophie, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, I'm Sophie Graham, head of inclusion for SFE Music, which is Birmingham Music Service.
Thanks, Sophie. Dal?
Hi, I'm Del. I work for Chris at Dudley Performing Arts.
Thanks, Dal. And Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm one of the teaching and learning leaders for Intrust Music in Staffordshire.
Thanks, Lisa. And Lisa's taking a lead on SEND work for us in Staffordshire and also pulling together one of our hub projects as well. So we're delighted Sophie's going to lead most of this session for us, and also that Del's joining us to talk about some of the practical approaches, in particular an example of the approach he uses in his work with special schools. Just before we get into that, I'd like to also just say a sincere thanks from all of us for everything you've done in schools to promote music this year. Working with us to keep provision going. It's been really difficult times and we all really do value the work that you've done to keep activities going. We know how difficult it's been. Most schools have now got music provision up and running again, and there's certainly a new climate of improvement for music offers, driven by a mix of recovery post-pandemic, but also alongside things like the model music curriculum, which was published by the DFE just before Easter, and that's really been the prompt and the drive for this session, with comments that came about, well, what about progress in special school settings? How do we approach that? And can we have a discussion about it, which came off the back of one of our sessions on the model music curriculum? So I believe Sophie wants to start us off with a question. Sophie, are you happy to lead us away now, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Just a tiny bit about me before we go on. I do work at Birmingham Music Service. I've worked there for 5 years, first as an inclusion lead and now as head of inclusion, but most of my work has actually been in schools. So I've been music education for the past 20 years, primarily in special schools, done some work in mainstream as well, but yeah, primarily in special schools. I did about 1.5 years of general teaching, but the rest of it's been music. So I'm kind of coming at it from both the special school and music service angle, which can be helpful. So yeah, the first question, really important question, is what approaches to progression are currently being used in your settings? I think, John, did you send out an email before just to say, be prepared to talk about it? I will preface this with the fact that some people might not have any approach to progression at the moment to music. That would be absolutely normal. This is in no way, a judgment. It's really just to get a picture of what's happening and to share, useful things that people may be doing. So who would like to go first? Anybody? No? Oh,
hi.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm Val Hill. I'm one of the TLRs at Dudley School, Paynes Meadow. We have Del as our music teacher, but we don't just rely on Del for our music lessons. We also use Charanga, which you've probably all heard of. But what we've done as a school in the last 12 months is we've written programs of learning for all of the subjects that we teach. And so we have a program of learning for music along with all of the other subjects that we teach, which enables teachers to follow the program of learning and look at the progress that the pupils are making. So we're not quite so what's the word, proper on recording is a bit more informal, because obviously we're a special needs school and it depends, well, as you know yourselves, if you've worked in children with special needs, they're a bit spiky on attention, and that goes the same with music, because sometimes they really engage with what we're doing with music and sometimes they don't. But what's been really lovely this year with COVID is that Dell's been doing our music sessions, and they've totally engaged with the session, whether, you know, it's been on Teams or whether it's been in person, and that's been so lovely to see. And I think Dell would agree with that, the level of engagement that he's seen. Our kids have been in different bubbles, so they haven't even been in their own classes, so there's been a lot of upheaval, but music has been a consistent for them, and they've all enjoyed it, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the teachers are more confident now in how the children can progress, because we've got our policy, and it's very kind of step by step, so that we know where we should be going, because none of us are music specialists.
Yeah.
So, you know, apart from having Dell come in.
Yeah, and once we got the poll written, it was obvious what Dell and Chris previously were trying to do with the kids for progression in music, because we used to just go along with, oh, this is a lovely music session, let's join in with this, let's join in with this. But now we've got the poll, we can see what Dell and Chris have been trying to do. So that's what we do in our setting anyway.
That's great. Thank you so much. And there's so many things to kind of pick up on there, but I think especially the importance of the impact through COVID. I think that any of you in special schools will probably agree with that, and just to have that consistency, but also to have the music input is so important. Excellent, thank you so much. Who would like to go next? I can see a hand up. Jay Edwards.
Yeah, it's Jo.
Yeah.
I'm from the Briar School, which is not far from Pens. We also do the same. We've worked on a long-term and mid-term plan for music for Key Stage 3, especially this year. But we're also now looking at, we use the DAPA in Dudley to assess the children, which is for Maths, English, Science and ICT. I've realised that there wasn't anything for music or art. So we've currently in the process of, well, we've put one together now. So Almost Learning Ladders. We looked at Oak Tree, their website, and they've got learning ladders on there. And we've kind of used those as a basis to put together how we're going to assess the children. So we're currently at that process right now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So music ladders. So is that, so if I understand it, is that taken from another school that's their
so kind of... Yeah, they use learning ladders at Oak Tree. They're on their website actually for all subjects, so we're looking at doing the same for humanities. I'm doing another one for food technology, so it's literally very similar to the old levels, the national curriculum levels. So what stages each child needs to be at, and so we can assess them. We use evidence for learning in school as a way of tracking, so we want those learning ladders to be put on evidence for learning, so that we can then take videos of the children, put those on their learning journeys, that kind of thing.
Sure, that's great, thank you. I've come across a lot of schools that have done that, shared the kind of ladders, the thing, and also evidence of learning as well. Okay, excellent. Do we have anyone else who'd like to share? No? Okay. Oh, hang on. Is that someone? Change their mind?
Yeah, no, that's me.
Hello.
Hi, so I'm Lisa from Watermill in Stoke. We've just started to use Twaranga this year. Unfortunately, a bit of a rubbish year to start something new, because, you know, it's been a bit iffy, hasn't it? And so we've sort of rewritten the whole curriculum. We've done, we've sort of devised a load of unit plans for all the subjects, and that was in progress last year. And we've written like progress points for each. Oh, my battery's going. Progress points for each subject, which are based on P levels. I'm going to have to go and get my charger. Oh no, sorry.
Great, well, thank you so much. Yeah, there's loads of things there actually. Twaranga has come up a couple of times. Wonderful to hear about the impact of the music service in Dudley, and how that's sort of given you confidence. And I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Because all of us, I think, understand that music is good for the young people that we work with, but it's having some kind of framework or something underpinning that, so we can kind of chart progression, not just say, oh yeah, it's really, we know it's good for them. You know, that's really useful, I think. Great to hear so many of you doing long-term and mid-term plans as well for music in special schools. I know that doesn't always happen. We probably should move on unless there's anyone else. Yeah, do you think so, John? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for your input from those 3 schools. I'm going to talk to you now about Sounds of Intent. I don't know if any of you are aware or previously aware of Sounds of Intent. Some of you are nodding. I can't see all of you. Couple of you shaking heads. Okay. So I guess probably the best thing to do for me to, in fact, the first thing for me to do, let me put up my PowerPoint so I know that's going to work okay before I start. I have tested this once, but let's just make sure. Now, oh, I can see some of you still, that's good. Okay. So can somebody tell me what you can see on your screen now, please? Anybody?
Yeah, I see the PowerPoint.
Yeah,
progression in settings.
It's just that one page, yeah, just the front, so kind of front page, yeah, just.
Yeah, just the front page.
Right. Okay. So yeah, just to quickly tell you how I came to know about Sounds of Intent. I was employed, gosh, back in 2011 by Reynolds Cross Special School in Solihull, which is where I spent the most of my teaching over the past few years, and they employed me originally to create a music curriculum for the school, but I didn't currently work at the school, and I kind of said to them, well, you know, I need to know the kids if I'm going to create a music curriculum, and I ended up working there full time and creating a curriculum. But while I was doing that, we were working with an organisation called Jessie's Fund. Some of you may be aware of them. They work nationally with special schools and music, and they said, oh, have you heard of Sounds of Intent? And I hadn't, so I contacted Adam Wackelford, who created it, and he was very open, very generous with his time. Had a conversation with him, and the PG Cert in Sounds of Intent was about to run, and the PG Cert actually, over the course of that, you create a curriculum, and that could be an 8-week curriculum for one class, but for me, I used it to underpin my entire whole school curriculum. So that's how I kind of came to Sounds of Intent. But I just found it so useful because I think, as we were just saying, it's a well-researched framework, and it shows how progression happens in very small increments. And I think as a teacher, it just gave me so much more confidence, because I thought I knew and understood what music progression looked like in this setting, but to have something kind of backing me up was really, really useful. Now I'm going to whiz through these slides really quickly. I'll give them to John afterwards so you can look at the detail a bit more. I've never done this in half an hour before, so I'm going to be talking fast, but please do stop me or put your hand up virtually to let me know if you have any questions. And you'll have to obviously unmute because I can't see all of you on the screen. So excellent. So I'm going to go on to the next slide if it will let me. Yep. Now, apologies if you all answered this question a million times, but I always like to start the discussion with this question. So why do we think that music is important or useful, particularly in this setting when we're talking about those with special educational needs and disabilities? Oh, hang on, sorry, I skipped on there a little bit. There we go. Usually I would say we discuss this in pairs or small groups. We don't really have time for that, so I'll just, if anyone wants to chip in, just to tell me any reason at all why they think music is good in this setting.
Builds confidence.
Builds confidence, absolutely. Thank you. I don't know who that was, but thank you very much. I can't see your names. Absolutely, yeah. It's really great for well-being, building confidence and self-esteem. Excellent. Anything else?
I'd say it's an opportunity for a joyful interaction.
Oh, joy! Yeah, that's such a good word for it. Absolutely. You know, we all know the joy that we get from making music, and I think that's true of most people, whoever we are, wherever we are. Excellent.
It's a non-verbal form of communication for the students.
Yeah, of course. And I think as working in special schools, communication is really so key, isn't it? It's really what we're working on most of our students with most of the time. So yeah, absolutely, it's a way of communicating where we don't need words, and that's so important for so many of the young people that we work with. Excellent. Anything else? Maybe have one more.
Helps social interaction.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely helps with that as well. And again, as we've talked about, for those who are non-verbal, it's a way to communicate where there may be no other, you know, for some of the young people we work with will never use language conventionally, and music and sound gives them those opportunities. So yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for your inputs there. Let me just go forward here. Oh, excuse me. For some reason this doesn't look like it usually does on my screen. Apologies. There we go. For some reason it's not showing this. Here we go. Yeah, for me, one of the big things is that, as we've kind of said, music is really part of being human. So we all, most of us, engage in music, enjoy engaging with music, and it brings us, as somebody said, you know, joy. It helps us to communicate, and I believe it's also a human right for all of us to make quality and meaningful musical sessions available to all of the young people we work with, whether that's through music service or through our special schools. Right. So a lot of what you've just said is backed up by evidence, and some of this you will already know, but some of the research behind Sounds of Intent looked into music and the brain. So music develops before language in the brain, and it's multi-sited in the brain, which means it happens in lots of different parts of the brain. Many of you have probably seen CAT scans or brain imaging where you've seen someone listen to music or making music, or even sometimes just thinking about music or a certain piece of music, and lots of different parts of the brain light up at the same time. It's one of the very few things that does that. And what that means is that for those who may have impairments in the brain through a neurological difference, through brain injury, through dementia, music may be able to get in through the unimpaired parts of the brain. And what that means is that for those who have additional needs, their ability to process music might be the same, or even could be advanced in relation to their neurotypical peers, so their peers without learning difficulties. For me, there are sort of three key things as to why this is so significant, and the first is that for those with PMLD or the most complex needs, using music or sound can be the only way sometimes these young people can communicate, and also the only time in their lives they may have agency or control over anything. So it really can be transformative for young people with the most complex needs. I think thinking about those with a natural flair for music is really important. So, for example, autistic children or people who are autistic, 1 in 20 of those people will have absolute pitch or perfect pitch, whereas I think it's around 1 in 20,000 people without autism will have absolute pitch. So I guess, you know, of course, that doesn't mean that everyone who is autistic is going to be a professional musician, but what it does mean is that they have that kind of predilection, that potential, and that natural kind of attraction to music and flair for music. Interesting as well, thinking about those who are born blind, 45% of people who are born blind will also have absolute pitch. So if you think about the cohorts you work in, there may well be, you know, children and young people who have absolute pitch. I've put there, how do we find these young people? Of course, that's the difficulty, isn't it? And I think if you're not a music specialist, it's not always that easy to tell. And I think sometimes it can be confusing because some young people with absolute pitch might kind of put their fingers in their ears because they don't like something, but it may not be that they don't like music. It might be that, for example, and this has happened to me, the person singing it might not be singing it exactly in tune or playing it exactly in tune, or it might be that they have heard that piece in a different key and hear it in this new key is really jarring for them. So there's lots to think about there, I think. And finally, the sense of achievement. Many of you touched upon this when I asked you about music. Of course, it's so important. You know, music does bring us so much joy. It's an area where as we've seen from the research, you know, those with additional needs can thrive and can achieve as well as just enjoying it. And I think for social, emotional, and mental health, it's so important. Many of you will be aware, I'm sure, as well, that for those with additional needs, they are far more likely to have a mental health issue as well. So, you know, it's really so important for the young people we're talking about. Very quick look here as well as how sound is processed. So neurotypically, so for those without an additional need, music can be processed in the womb, so 3 months before birth. And then between birth and 12 months, the three main strands of sound, which are everyday sounds, music and speech, become more and more distinct. But what that does mean is that in that period of 3 months before birth and 12 months after birth, sound still might be a bit confusing, a bit of a mishmash. So those three strands won't be definite. And I think it's really important when thinking about our PMLD cohort that some people that you work with in that domain may still be, in the domain of 3 months before birth or 12 months after birth. So really important when we think about planning our lessons and introducing sounds and music about what might be going on in the minds of those young people. And then looking at after 12 months of age, we're looking at those distinct strands of sound there. Again, for those who are autistic, sometimes they can process everyday sounds and speech musically, which means that they may be, for example, attracted to an everyday sound like the buzz of the computer or a car horn, but it's the timbre, so the quality of that sound, that attracts them, or the pitch of the sound, how high or low it is. And the same with speech. So it can be that some autistic people can enjoy the sound of speech, but it's more the phrasing of it, the up and down of it, rather than necessarily the content of the speech. If any of you have any questions. This is one of Adam Ockford, who created Sounds of Intent, one of his students, Romy. I'm going to hopefully play you some of Romy later if there's time, but he was convinced that it was her inability to process language and to understand the significance of everyday sounds that led to her heightened ability to process all sounds in a musical way. So she has this innate flair for music, yet she can't hold a conventional conversation. She's unable to dress herself or really understand a lot of the sounds going on around her, and yet with music she just gets it and she just thrives off it. I'm going to whiz through this now. So this is how Sounds of Intent was born. It was created by Professor Adam Ockford. It started with the Promise Report, which surveyed 50 special schools across the country. This was back in 2000. Across those special schools, there was a universal belief in the value of music for children with learning difficulties, but provision, which was both teaching and resources, were found to be variable across all the schools. Schools said that they needed and were welcome clearer guidance on how to find music education, specifically for those with severe and profound and multiple learning difficulties. Nothing existed currently, so Sounds of Intent was born. They adopted a bottom-up approach in contrast with the national curriculum and the P levels, which some of you may still use, plus 10 years of research. They looked at neurotypical early musical development, so early musical development in those without additional needs, and also zygonic theory, which is Adam Ockford's theory about how music makes sense to us all. I'm not going to go into any detail about that, other than to say it's through referring to itself or through repetition. So music makes sense to us all through repetition. And it's believed, I think, that 85% of music is repetition. And when we're talking about nursery rhymes or pop songs, it's even higher than that, 90 to 95%. I think, again, when thinking about this cohort, we know how important repetition is. And I think, it's so important for those with additional needs to be able to anticipate what's coming next, to have the safety of something that's so predictable in such an unpredictable and frustrating world for so many. So what is it? It's a freely available online resource, so anyone can use it, and it's absolutely free. There's lots of information on there about the framework. There are resources on there, downloadable songs and ideas for activities. It can be used to inform planning, to inform delivery, to inform curriculum, and it can also be used as an assessment tool in its own right. obviously it's a developmental framework, and I've put here that it shows us what to look for in terms of communication through sound and music, simply because for the first 3 levels we're looking at sound, not music. So sounds on its own rather than just music. Yes, that is what makes up music, but it's yeah, it's really looking at communication in the early levels. So I'm going to show you a very short video, just so it's not just me talking the whole time. This is on the Sounds of Intent website, as I said, free to access, so you can watch the rest of it if you're interested. It's a really great video that just goes through the basic level. So I'm just going to unshare this for a minute. You'll have to tell me if you can see it. Hang on. Oh, no, that's not what we want. Hang on a second. Let's try again. Okay, can you see the Champions video there? Does it say SOS at the start, at the top, sorry? Yeah, can somebody say yes or no?
Yeah, we can see that, Sophie, thank you.
Great, thanks very much. So I'm just going to show you this now. It might be useful now, if you received the email from John about the other materials, we're going to look at those in a minute. So if there's any chance you could have them on a different device, that would be great. Don't worry if you can't. But yeah, we're going to be looking at those shortly, and this is going to be taking you through those now.
Now we're going to talk about the Sounds of Intent domains. The sounds.
Sorry, can I just check, can you hear that as well?
Yeah, we can hear that.
Right.
Sounds of Intent teams all the information into a framework.
The framework looks like a set of rooms divided into 3 parts. Each part represents a different way of engaging with music.
The first segment is about listening and represents what the team call the reactive domain. This is always pink.
The second is about making sounds and music. This is called the proactive domain and is always blue.
The third is about other people with music. It is called the interactive domain and is always green.
Now we're going to talk about framework levels. One of the things that the team found out is that all people seem to go through similar stages of musical development. For example, we all go through a stage when we encounter sounds but cannot make any sense of them. For most people, this happens while they are still in the womb. A big step forward is when we learn that sounds exist and they can be very different from one another. For example, they can be high or low, loud or soft, harsh or mellow, long or short.
After this, we start to recognise patterns in sound. Music is amazingly repetitive and contains lots of notes that are the same as one another. It is pattern that enables music to make sense. It means that we can learn tunes and remember them, and anticipate what is going to happen next when we are listening. About 4 or 5 notes in every piece repeats what has been heard before. For example, Blondie, Sunday Girl.
Next we notice that the notes seem to group together to form chunks. Musicians call these motifs, like the opening of Beethoven's 5th Symphony, or the beginning of the James Bond movie themes.
After that, we get the idea that chunks can be combined to form whole tunes or melodies that can be put together to make complete pieces.
Finally, we learn how different kinds of music and different artists can make us feel a whole range of different emotions. For example, I like Emily Sunday because she sings exactly like I sing, and the lyrics to her songs are so beautiful and they make me feel with such emotion. They describe everything that I'm feeling most of the time, particularly one particular song called Read All About It. I love that song and everything. It's just like how I feel, but through lyrics, you have someone else describing it towards me and everything, and I love it, and I love her. She's wonderful. On the other hand, I absolutely don't like the singer called Birdie because she makes me feel really cross and closed up and annoyed and angry and sad, and she sings literally every song is literally got almost the same music, same tune, so it makes no, literally like you're hearing the same song again and again and again. It's really, really frustrating.
Apologies for any Birdie fans out there. Right, let me just share this again. Okay. Right. What can you see on your screen now? Somebody tell me, please.
Slide 17 in the PowerPoint, Sophie.
Excellent, thank you, Jan. So that's what we wanted. Here we go. So yeah, so here's the framework. Just very quickly to go over it once more, what we've just seen. The pink domain on the left is the reactive domain, so that's about responding to sounds, reacting to sounds and music. The blue domain is proactive, which is making sounds intentionally, making music. And the green domain is the interactive domain, which is about interacting through sound and music. And then the levels, there's 6 levels. Level 1 is when there's no response to sound at all and no intentional sound making. So when you look on the website, all of level 1 is around the practitioner and what we can do to help promote response to sound, to model interaction, that kind of thing. Level 2 is about sound and not sound, so it's about reacting to sound, making sound intentionally or sounds intentionally, and interacting through sound. Level 3 is about pattern, so again, responding to pattern, making pattern intentionally, interacting using pattern. Level 4 is about chunks of sound or motifs or parts of songs, so again, responding to these, making these intentionally, making these with others or interacting using these. Level 5 is about whole pieces. Again, responding to, playing, improvising or composing, and again, using these in interaction with others. And finally, level 6 is about musicality. So level 6 is quite a big level because it's looking at playing musically and expressively, but that could be someone, I don't know, being able to sing a nursery rhyme beautifully and expressively, and also up to someone being a professional musician. So it's quite a wide level, level 6. Okay, you're still with me. I know I'm whizzing through this. Just some more information there about sound. Any questions at this point? No? Okay. So we're going to go on to a video now, and what I'd like you to do is to have the frameworks in front of you if you can, and I'm going to play the video, and then we're just going to have a quick go at see if we can pinpoint where My Friend Ride might be on the framework. I know you've just seen them, but yeah, let's see how we get on. So I'm just going to play the video and then we'll talk about it afterwards. No, that didn't work. Sometimes it will only let me play the video if I come out of it for some reason, so I'll do that just to save time. Here we go. Can you see the video there? Can you see the video on screen of Ride?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to ask you to unmute if you know, obviously if you want to be heard. I can't see any of you, so that would be great. We could talk a little bit about what we can see, but I think because we've got such little time, I'm going to jump straight into Sounds of Intent. So if you have got your frameworks in front of you, is anyone brave enough just to hazard a guess as to where they think Ride might be on the framework? You've literally just seen it. There are no wrong answers. Anyone? Now, if I read out a couple of options, and then you can tell me what you think. Maybe if that, maybe you can't see your frameworks. So, for example,
hello.
Oh, hello.
We've had a little discussion and we're prepared to say something.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
Okay, we think that was in the blue section.
Yeah.
And the third one from the centre, make simple patterns in sound intentionally through repetition or regularity. Yeah, that word.
Do you know, interestingly, that's spelt wrong on this framework that I've got as well, so don't worry about it. Yeah, 100%. He's a very strong level 3. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, so he's repeating simple patterns in sound. And for considering you've just seen the framework, that's not bad, is it? It's not too tricky, I think, to use. Anyone got any? Go on.
Can I just say something else?
Yeah.
As you've been talking, you know, we talked earlier about our poll.
Yes.
This Sounds of Intent is included in our music poll.
Oh,
so we've actually got it in our music poll.
Oh, great! And when you say poll, what do you mean by that? So
our program of learning, we've written a program of learning for all the pupils in the school to like dip into, so we know where they're at, and that Sounds of Intent is part of the program of learning.
Excellent.
So we thought, as you were talking, we just said this absolutely rings a bell. And
yeah.
So we've just gone into our program of learning, and there it all is. It is absolutely part of it. So there you go.
That's great to know. Thank you so much. That's what we like to hear. Excellent. So I'm just going to come out of that now. Just because of time, I'm going to have to skip through all of this. I think we're not going to get through much more of this now.
Sophie, can I just come in for a sec? Is there a good place for you to just pause for a minute, and we can I'm really conscious Dell's teaching at past.
Sure.
Maybe if it's a few more minutes, but if we could let Dell then speak and then come back to Sounds of Intent afterwards, if we do it that way. Yeah, is this a good moment, or is there a bit more to do first?
No, that's absolutely fine, because we've just done the video. Let me just unshare.
Great, thank you. Dell, is that okay with you? I'm really conscious you don't want to be rushing to teaching.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Appreciate that. Thanks very much. Shall I go ahead and make a start?
Yeah, okay. Please.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Dell. I work for Dudley Performing Arts with Chris. Have done for, I think this is my 13th year. I know the two chatty ladies from Pensmeadow, Val and Ange. So anyway, so I work in a number of different special schools with pupils who have MLD, PMLD, SLD, so quite a wide variety of additional needs. And I started that in my second year, so it's quite a shock to the system. When I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, but my main focus was to make sure that the pupils enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the musical experience, and could participate in some way. So I found a couple of books and learnt them songs, which got the pupils involved by playing instruments, performing some actions, or even getting squirted with water. So quite a few of these songs, like the water song, which you will see some of in a moment, focused on sensory experiences, which was great for a lot of pupils with limited mobility. So I still use these songs today, But now I've developed a repertoire that focuses on like simple musical concepts, which you've heard about earlier today, which helps the children build their musical skills and become better musicians. So the main musical elements being beat, rhythm, dynamics, tempo, pitch, and duration. So I'd like to focus on the teaching that I do at 2 schools in Dudley, where I start with the youngest pupils who are aged 5, around that age, all the way up to young adults. So at the start of the year, when, let's say, I've got a new class, typical first few lessons might involve songs that help me establish a relationship with the pupils, so that they understand that the music session, the music experience is fun, it's to be enjoyed, and you know, and also the teachers enjoy it too, sometimes a little too much. But I'm just going to share a video, just about a minute of it, so you can get an idea of what this is all about. Okay, one moment.
We are riding on a train. We are riding on a train to places where we can play. Blow the whistle, train will stop. Blow the whistle, the train will stop. Blow the whistle, the train will stop. That place is where we can play. We are riding on a train. We are riding on a train. We are riding on a train to places where we can play. Next stop is Waterland. Ah! Next stop is Waterland. Next stop is Waterland. And now it's time to play. We are playing at Waterland. We are playing at Waterland.
So that song's called the Train Song, which I've been doing for about 10 years now. But yeah, we recorded these videos during lockdown, start of lockdown last year, just so the pupils that I work with could continue their musical experience at home and see a familiar face and have some fun and take the edge off the whole COVID experience. We do these songs in school, in class, but we don't throw water like that. We have a spray gun and bubbles. So yeah, I'll share the playlist. There's about 20 to 30 different songs that we recorded. So if you want to have a look at any of this stuff, I'll share the playlist on the chat and you can have a look. So moving away from the fun songs, well, they're all fun, but some actual musical teaching. I introduced some songs that had an emphasis on beat, so that the pupils could either play an instrument or do some actions, but to the pulse of the song. So to progress from this, I developed some more songs which would encourage the pupils to play their beat in different ways, so loud, quiet, fast, slow, etc. So these songs would be an essential part to each week's lesson, because, as mentioned earlier, the repetition is so important. So when I say repetition, I mean it could be over the period of a pupil's life at that school, so over 7, 8, 9 years. So I might see a class for 30 minutes once a week. So in that session, I might do 6 songs. So they would do a song about beat for 3 minutes each week, every week for maybe 6 weeks, half a term. And then the following 6 weeks, we'd do a different song about beat. But it's that repetition, so that the pupils could understand it. Some would get it straight away. Some would take a little bit longer. Some might even take years to understand what's going on. But it became obvious that some pupils were more able. So we thought of some further challenges. So then we introduced the word rhythm, and we encouraged the children to make up their own rhythms. So I'll show you another one of these videos. This one's called Copy My Rhythm, So you'll get the idea in a moment. Sorry, 1 second.
Hi everyone. So this song is all about developing our rhythms. Okay, so we're going to make some rhythms out from a simple sentence about Darcy. Darcy, what is your favourite colour?
Red.
Red. So my name's Darcy. I like red. Play it. My name's Darcy. I like red. Well done. When I tell you to, we'll play that. Can you copy me and play Darcy's rhythm? So, my name's Darcy, I like red. Listen to me play, then play Darcy's rhythm. My name's Darcy, I like red. One more time, you're gonna play Darcy's rhythm. Play it. My name's Darcy, I like red. Now it's your turn, you're gonna play Darcy's rhythm. My name's Darcy, I like red. This time louder, let me hear Darcy's rhythm. My name's Darcy, I like red. Let's do it all again and play Darcy's rhythm. My name's Darcy, I like red. Now make sure when you say Darcy, you go Darcy, not Darcy. So make sure you play Darcy.
So that song's all about rhythm. So this song helped me identify some more gifted pupils. So again, to progress, we thought of different ways we could challenge these pupils. So we put together an orchestra at one of the schools. And this is when I started to notice one of my star pupils, which I'll talk about in a moment. So the orchestra consisted of violins, percussion, guitar, keyboards, and we played for open tuning on the guitar and violins and in the key of C, so everything would work nicely musically. So we taught this orchestra a number of songs which they actually performed in assemblies at school. We've even done concerts, DPA, at Dudley Town Hall, where they've performed, and we once held a concert at the Symphony Hall, which was incredible. So we've got this orchestra out there playing to the public, which has been great. Also, at school, we recorded an album which featured all of the children, every single child in the school, where they played an instrument. We put songs together and recorded it and produced it and raised some money for the school. So you can see some of these children now. This is the last video I'm going to play. This is a 1 minute of music, which we did a couple of years ago, I think. So I'll show you this. Okay, so I'm still working with this star pupil and who I've known since I first started at this school like 12 years ago. So he's now post 16. Tomorrow he's going to be taking his first grade exam on the electric guitar. which is incredible. So he's the perfect example of progression. So he can read simple notation and tab, and he's learned the repertoire and the scales and technical exercise, everything needed, and he's going to be sitting the exam tomorrow, which is incredible. He's played with the band when our guitar team have done a show at the school. We got him up there and he played with us in front of the whole school. Absolutely fine, loved the experience. His confidence is incredible now. He's a very shy, timid young boy, but he's now grown up to be a very confident young man. Walks around the school making small talk with everybody he passes by. You could call him a bit of a smooth talker. So I've told him he's the first person ever in the school to have taken an exam on an instrument, which hopefully he understands that, you know, it's quite a special thing, and all of the teachers that know about this are very proud of him. At another school, I'm working with a group of guitar students who are noticed were very creative. So a couple of years ago, we finished recording a piece which started from an unfortunate behavioural incident on a taxi journey home between a pupil and a taxi driver. Anyway, we used the experience to reflect, and he wrote about his feelings and put together some lyrics and actually sang it. He's a fantastic singer. So we made a song, and that's on YouTube. That's on a playlist as well. You can have a listen.
Del, I'm going to have to stop you there, Del. Sorry, just to jump in. We're fast out of time, and this is the you can tell this is the first time we've put together this kind of SEND forum. We've got way too much content, and we're fast running out of hours before people get into tea and childcare. Was there anything you wanted to say? Just as a final summary there, Del.
Yeah, I was just on the last bit. So basically, that's you know, that's my take on progression. So the main thing for me is that I've got a large and varied repertoire of songs that I can pick at each lesson, and just keep doing them over and over, and make sure that the pupils enjoy it. You know, that's the main thing. So, well, thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Del. I know it's an awful lot to just create a small presentation within a meeting like this. So thanks for the time for coming. It's been great to have you on the call, and good luck with teaching in 6 minutes. Sophie, can we come back to Sounds of Intent, please? And if we need to run on a little bit, if you have to leave at past, please do drop off. We won't run on for too long, but I'm conscious of Sophie also not talking at 100 miles an hour. And if we need to run this session again, I'm sure we can organise a follow-up. So there we go, Sophie. Thank you.
Yeah, just to catch up on a couple of things that Del said as well. You know, in terms of working in special schools with music, there were a few things there that I just wanted to reiterate, really, which was obviously the importance of sensory experience for a lot of our young people. And as part of the Sounds of Intent framework, there is levels 1 to 3. There's a section in there which is all about sensory experience as well, and assessing that. I really love the way that Del talked about musical concepts as well, because yes, we are talking about communication through sound, but please let's not forget music and the ability of so many of the young people actually in the school that will be able to progress musically, not just through, you know, not just an impact on well-being, not just an impact on communication, but also you know, have musical skill. You know, the idea of forming a school band is so important, you know, and also an album including whole school is amazing. Yeah, and then something Del said as well about progression, and I think, as we all know, working in special schools, that's so important. So thinking about Sounds of Intent levels, some young people may not progress further than one level in the entire time they're at school. But the beauty of Sounds of Intent is that within each level there are lots and lots of different elements. So I'm going to very quickly go back to the PowerPoint just to show you a tiny bit more, and then we'll have a couple of minutes of questions at the end. So let's hope this works now. Are you back at the? Can you see my first? Can you see a slide at the moment?
Music and the Brain, yeah.
Yes. Right, let me just go find where we need to be. Isn't it? So further uses of music here. Yeah, we're going to skip all of this, unfortunately. Yes, quite a lot of videos on there. This is just to show you what it looks like when you do assess using Sounds of Intent. So you can see you can have it in graph or table form. Some schools like the graphs because they like to see the upward movement if that happens. Of course, we all know that that doesn't always happen. I think someone said before about the spiky attainment, and that's absolutely right. But you can see here there's kind of lots of up and down in the reactive domain from this young person, less in the proactive, but also in the interactive. And then at the bottom, it just gives you the trends of where the young person is. So obviously it can be used as an assessment tool, but it can also be used, as I said, to kind of inform planning and for curriculum. We talked about why music. These are just some things we talked about. Sorry, so the headlines, that's what I wanted to get to. So if you take nothing else away from today in terms of Sounds of Intent, just that it's a well-researched tool. And it's designed specifically for those with severe and profound multiple learning difficulties. Of course, you can use it with those with MLD as well, and also for adults as well. Musical progression is there, as well as, you know, communication through sound. It's very flexible. You can use it however you want. There's no right way, wrong way to use it. As I said, it can be used to underpin curriculum or assessment. As part of the PG Cert, we've had many students who've used it with Roots for Learning. They've sort of mapped across to Roots for Learning. We've had to have people that use it on Evidence for Learning as well. I worked in a PMLD school where we mapped it across to Impacts, which is a curriculum that's based on the areas of engagement, you know, the engagement model. There is a link to P levels as well if you still use P levels. There's also many resources that go alongside it. I've talked a little bit about the PG Cert and the curriculum. There's also an organisation called Amber Trust, which is a sister organisation to Sounds of Intent, and on there's lots of backing tracks and things like that that can be used. Another sister organisation is Sound About Live, lots of resources on there as well. Lots of things coming soon. Really interesting to hear Del talk about accreditation. So this has been in the pipeline for a few years now, but Adam's promised me now that this year, you know, this coming year, it's going to be up and running by the end of this academic year, which is an accreditation route through Trinity Music. So that's one of the main music exam boards, but it's going to be for young people who are on the Sounds of Intent framework, but maybe not up to the level or being able to go out to exam centres, for example, because that might be too uncomfortable and just not appropriate for them. So it will be an accreditative route through music from level 2 onwards. So just for those who can make sound intentionally, they can get a certificate for that, and then it'll go all the way through to level 6. And there'll also be routes into mainstream exams as well, like the kind that Del was talking about. So it's really exciting. It's also Ofsted approved. If anyone is interested in that, it's Ofsted approved also. So I've put in this PowerPoint lots of links to what I've been talking about, just so you can quickly visit all these things. I'll put any further questions, but we are going to go on. Oh, we're nearly out of time. Let me just stop presenting. As I said, I'll make the PowerPoint available to everybody, but I really wanted to just quickly see if anyone had any questions about this. Kind of the final question that we really want to ask you was, what support is kind of needed in your schools that isn't currently happening, and that may be to do with progression routes and Sounds of Intent, it may be other things. But if you have any questions about any of the above, please speak now. No? Or comments? Any comments? No?
Sophie, I think it might just be worth mentioning one of the discussions that we had around Sounds of Intent being there, and I think sometimes there can be that fear of we need to try and shoehorn in a mainstream progression framework into an SEND setting, and how that may just not be appropriate at all. And to, you know, there are 4 music services represented here tonight. There's yourself, there's lots of people with expertise, which is what we've tried to show this evening, that can help look at alternatives. So it's not to think that you need to do something that colleagues in mainstream schools may be doing or approaching that just might not be right. Is that a fair summary of what we were saying?
Absolutely, yeah. And thinking about my experience, before I worked for Birmingham Music Service, I was in a special school, as I said, asked to write a curriculum, and all I had to go on was the national curriculum and QCA. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, but sorry, I've used that in the past. But to be honest, neither were really that helpful to me at all. So it was just so lucky for me at the time that Sounds of Intent came along, because as I said, it's exactly for the cohort that we're talking about. And as I think I got to the slide where it said there's no right way really to use it, so you can use it however you want. You can just use it as a resource if you want. Just go onto the website. In fact, unless anyone's got any questions now, I might just show you the website quickly before we leave, because we haven't.
Please, Sophie, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and as I said, it's free to use. Anybody can use it. You literally type Sounds of Intent into Google and it will come up. But let me just show you that quickly now, just so you have a bit more of an idea. Let's have a look. Sorry. Just come out of that and come into this. Here we go. So can you see that now, the where the Young Champions video is? Or no?
Not yet, no.
Okay, let me just try that
No.
again. All right, stop sharing. Let's share again. Right, let's try this. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you type Google Sounds of Intent into Google, this will come up. You can see this screen here. Down the left-hand side is all the actions. You can log in and register. It's really easy to do and it's completely free. And then you can go to the framework, which is what we've just been talking about. And you might have a pupil, you might think, okay, I've got a pupil who can make a sound intentionally. Where are they on the framework? You click on there, and then each level in each domain is divided into a further 4 what we call elements. And then within those elements, there are even more increments. So we don't need to go into that now, but just to show you what I mean. So for example, P2A, make sounds intentionally. Here, this is what we're talking, this is generally what's happening. Strategies tell you how either to get to that level or how to kind of, make that level more interesting. We look at engagement. So for example, is this child making just one type of sound or more than one? And how often are they making that sound? And then the resources here, so backing tracks, that kind of thing there. And then the most useful thing, I think, is the video. So there's hundreds of videos. There's videos for every single element, and you can just play that and see whether that fits the profile of the young person that you're working with. So there's hundreds of ways to use it. We are at sort of 35 past now, so I don't know if you want to end there, or if anyone has any burning questions.
I think I've just got one comment I'd like to make there, Sophie, really, or a question for people. If you just give a virtual hand up, if you know how to do that around, would it be useful for us to look at running a further session with more time on Sounds of Intent for people to look at that in further detail? Could people just give a thumbs up either virtually or otherwise? Yeah, I've seen a few. That's really good. Fab. Oh, I'm getting lots of thumbs. I've not seen that in Teams before. They all go along the bottom of the screen like that. That's great. Oh, Microsoft clever. Thanks everyone, that's really good to know. And yeah, I'm sorry we've had to curtail that slightly for you, Sophie, or very curtail it today, but it was only ever meant to be an introductory session as we start off. If we'd said it was a couple of hours on Teams at the end of a day,
no, I know.
It wouldn't be quite as appealing. But
no. And I think it was really important to hear from Dell as well, because it sounds like the sort of the work he's doing there is really, really valuable. And I, there's so much to unpick in all of it, really. So. Okay,
that's lovely. Well, if we can say, obviously I know Dell's left us, but a big thanks to Dell and Chris, if you could pass that on to Dell from all of us for the time. And the same to you, Sophie. I mean, I know you've worked on and off with us as a partnership for many years now. So it's great to have your expertise here with us. And if we can ask you to come back and do some more for us, that would be really helpful. And as you've nodded, that's captured on video, Sophie, as well. That's even better.
No, I'd love to. And these kind of, I love this, these kind of things. I love Sounds of Intent. I love sharing it. And I think, I always learn things during these sessions. So it's win-win.
Lovely. Well, look, we're going to stop recording now, and then if we'll say thanks to everyone for attending. But if people want to stay on afterwards to just ask a few questions, then please do so. We'll be fine to just hang around for a second and discuss.